Hello everyone, welcome back to another tutorial from chapter 3 of our BOS 223 financial management course. In this video we are going to be looking at problem number 5. So let's read the problem together. It says the year-end 2015 balance sheet of Brandix Incorporated listed common stock and other paid-in capital at $1,100,000 and retained earnings at $3,400,000. The next year, retained earnings were listed at $3,700,000. The firm's net income in 2016 was $900,000, and there were no stock repurchases during the year. What were the dividends paid by the firm in 2016? Okay. Now, this question is simple and straightforward, but it just depends on you knowing that the company's net income, just as we have explained in our lecture, can be redirected at the decision of the financial manager in one of two ways. It could be retained in the business to fund future projects in the form of retained earnings, or it could be given back to the investors in the form of cash dividends, right? So, knowing that the company's net income is given right here, okay, and knowing the amount of increase that occurred in the balance of the retained earnings from $3,400,000 up to $3,700,000, we can figure out the remaining amount that must have been redirected back to the investors in the form of dividends, right? So what is the formula that we're going to use here? We're going to use the following formula. Net income is going to equal the increase or the amount of change, regardless whether it was an increase or decrease. So let's just write change or delta. Change in retained earnings plus dividends. Okay, there's no other way for the profits of the company or the net income of the company to be spent. It could either be redirected or reinvested in the business in the form of retained earnings, or it could be given back to the investors in the form of dividends. Okay, now what do we know? We know that net income is $900,000. Right? And we know that retained earnings was, in the previous year, was $3,400,000, and then it increased to $3,700,000. Okay? And we want to find the dividends, right? So let's substitute in our formula. 900,000 is going to equal delta of retained earnings, which is 3.7 million minus 3.4 million plus dividends. Okay. Now, the difference between, or the change in the retained earnings is 300,000, right? We can take that to the other side, right here, and subtract it from the 900,000, and that will give us the amount of dividends paid out. Okay, so 900,000 minus the change in retained earnings, which was 300,000, but since we are moving it across the equal sign right here, we're going to change its sign, so it will become negative. So negative $300,000. Okay, this is going to equal the dividends. What does this mean? It means that dividends equals 900,000 minus 300,000, that's $600,000. And that's it. That's it for this exercise. Pretty simple. You just need to know the construction or the idea, as I said at the beginning, that for financial managers, they could utilize the net income of the company in one of two ways only. Either they could reinvest it in the business in the form of retained earnings, or give it back to the investors in the form of dividends. So now that we know that the company's net income is 900,000, then we can assume that this 900,000 is going to equal both the change in retained earnings and the dividends that was paid out. Okay, I hope that you found this video useful. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments. And until I see you in the coming tutorial, keep on studying.